Hello and welcome to part 1 of the Euchre Simulator project. Euchre is a card game, and as a child I would watch my parents play my grandparents over the holidays. Then my friends and I started playing around middle school and into high school. I can't even guess how many hours I'd played before going to college. I'd always heard that Euchre is a Midwestern game, and over the years I've asked my friends and colleagues as I've moved around the country. The correlation with the Midwest seems to be real, but somewhat hit or miss. I used my statistical skills to make this map. Everyone has his or her own style, and I was mostly influenced by my dad's combination of 1. Calling trump even with marginal hands, and 2. Denigrating your opponents on a personal level. The latter is the game within the game, so to speak. My brother and I would play my parents, and being competitive morons, we would get very invested. When we'd fall just short, my dad would hit us with the infamous double bird. I asked my parents if there are any photos, and sadly there are none, but I made this in paint to show you what it looks like. I asked my dad if he ever hit my grandparents with the double bird, and he said that he had not. He did, however, infuriate them by winning with weak cards, back to point number 1. I asked him if he remembered the weakest hand he ever won, and he said, I don't know, maybe Queen 9? My dad is very cool. But he maintained that most players don't take enough risks, and in adopting this strategy, I've won more often than I've lost. My version of Step 2, denigrating your opponents, is to put enormous pressure on my partner. There's an old Euchre adage that you should always count on your partner for one trick. One time I got Euchred and told my brother that I always count on him for one, and had ordered the king into his hand, which should be another one. I was joking, but something clicked in my mind. How much more likely are you to win if you give your partner a card in the first bidding round? Clearly it has to help, but how much? Maybe more than you'd expect, because in addition to giving him the card, I'm also giving him a chance to discard to improve his hand. Then again, maybe the king was his only trump, and it got swept up immediately when I led the right. Obviously, this is all probabilistic. Sometimes hands win, sometimes they lose, and it all depends on who has what. But I felt my intuition for gameplay could be improved upon. Once I started considering these questions, more sprang to mind immediately. When should you go alone, and when should you bring your partner along? When you make trump, is leading boss trump optimal? What about if your partner called it? What about if the other team called it? Thus the purpose of this video series, namely to determine optimal Euchre play via computer simulation. We're in part 1, where I'll describe the game and the plan. Part 2 will go through the programming. I'll talk about how the simulator was built and what went well and what did not go well. And part 3 will review the results. What is the success rate of every hand and every lead, along with some interesting facets of the game that the simulation approach can reveal. We'll get there in due time, but let's start at the beginning. If you're not familiar with the game, it's really quite simple. There are 2 teams of 2. You start with a standard deck of cards and retain 9 through ace of each suit. That's 6 cards and 4 suits, so 24 cards total. Cards are ranked ace, king, queen, jack, 10, 9. There's one exception to this, and it's the aspect of the game that usually trips up beginners. When a trump suit is identified, the hierarchy changes. Let's say the trump is clubs. The jack of clubs is the strongest card in the game, called the right bower. The other jack of the same color, in this case spades, is the second strongest, called the left bower. Then ace, king, queen, 10, 9 as before. For the other suits in this round, the hierarchy is unchanged. The exception is spades, for which the ranking is now ace, king, queen, 10, 9. The jack of spades is considered a club. So there are 7 trump cards, clubs, available, 5 spades, and the usual 6 diamonds and 6 hearts. The dealer rotates, so in this example I will be the dealer. Everyone gets 5 cards, and the dealer turns up 1 card. The card I turn up is the 10 of hearts. The bid starts to the dealer's left. My first opponent looks at his hand and determines if he wants hearts to be trump. If he does, he orders the card into my hand. This is his one opportunity to make it hearts. He has a weak heart hand, so he passes. My partner considers the same question. He has the ace and a side ace, but this isn't enough, and he passes as well. The third opponent has a decent hearts hand, but would prefer spades, and opts to pass. It is now my turn, and I see that I have 2 hearts, the jack and the queen. Picking up the 10 will give me a third, and I opt to do so, and discard the 9 of spades. Hearts is now trump. The player to the left of the dealer initiates the game. What makes Euchre easy is that the rules are rigid. First, each player plays exactly once per trick. Second, if a suit is led, all subsequent players must follow suit, presuming it is possible to do so. And third, the winner of the trick is determined as follows. If there are any trump cards played, the strongest trump card wins. If there are no trump cards played, the strongest card of the led suit wins. So let's continue the example. In this case, my opponent leads the ace of diamonds. My partner only has one diamond and has to play it. The ace beats the king, so opponent 1 is winning thus far. Opponent 2 opts to play a club, which has no bearing on the trick. Note that he does not play the jack of diamonds because when hearts is trump, the jack of diamonds is the left bower and considered a heart. I would like to take this trick, but because I have a diamond, I cannot. I play my weakest diamond, the 9. The first trick is complete, and the ace of diamonds has won. The winner of the prior trick initiates the next round, so opponent 1 leads again. This time he leads the king of clubs. My partner has the ace and the jack and wants to take the trick, so he plays the ace. Opponent 2 has no clubs and can play the left bower. Now is as good a time as any, and he plays it. There is one card in the game that can take the left bower, and that is the right bower. I have it, and because I have no clubs, I can play it. I do so and take the trick, and the score is now 1-1. I won the trick, and so I get to lead, but now I'm in a bind. I have 2 trump cards, but the ace and the king are both out there, and I could lose the trick. My alternative is the queen of diamonds, which would likely not survive. So I play the queen of hearts. Opponent 1 does not have any hearts and plays the 10 of spades. My partner has only 1 heart and follows suit. Opponent 2 is out of trump and plays the queen of spades. My partner wins the trick with the ace. His strongest remaining card is the jack of clubs, which he leads. Opponent 2 only has spades and plays the king. I remember from the prior trick that opponent 1 did not play hearts when hearts was led. Therefore, he does not have trump cards. His only winning cards could be the queen, king, or ace of clubs, and I remember that all 3 have already been played. Thus, he cannot take the trick, and I play the queen of diamonds. Opponent 1 plays the 10 of clubs, and my partner wins the trick. He leads his last card, the 9 of clubs. Ace of spades follows and has no bearing. My 10 of hearts is winning, and we establish that the next player is out of trump. His jack of spades has no impact, and I win the final trick with the strongest, and in this case the only, trump card played. So out of 5 tricks, we took 4. Euchre scoring works like this. If the team that declares trump takes all 5 tricks, they get 2 points. If the team that declares trump takes 3 or 4 tricks, they get 1 point. If the team that declares trump fails to get 3 tricks, the opponents get 2 points. This is called getting set or getting euchred. It happens to me often. My partner and I won 4 tricks, so we get 1 point. You might notice that 2 hearts didn't appear, the king and the 9. Both were buried in the discard pile, along with the 9 of spades I discarded at the start of the game. Thus concludes our first example, where I elected to pick up the card. The hand is complete, and the deal moves to the left. Opponent 1 is now dealing. Opponent 1 turns up the 9 of diamonds. My partner considers his hand. He would have the right and the queen with a side ace. He could do some damage, but maybe not enough to call it. Incidentally, this gray area of a pretty good hand is exactly what I'm trying to clarify with the simulator. I'd probably order the 9 in this case. But what's the statistical outcome of that decision? I would guess that the expected points is positive, but it's only a guess. Anyhow, my partner passes. Opponent 2 would have just the left, which is not enough. He passes, and with just the 10, I pass as well. It's up to opponent 1 now, who would have ace, king, 9. That's 3 trump cards, but no bowers. Risky, and he turns it down. So with all players declining diamonds, the decision process starts again. Each player, in turn, can choose the trump suit. The opportunity for diamonds has passed, so hearts, clubs, and spades are eligible to be selected. My partner has what's called a helping hand. With jacks of both colors, he can at least participate in any suit, but there may not be enough here to make it trump. He passes. Opponent 2 has right king queen of hearts, which is a strong hand. Keep in mind we just saw a win with right queen 10. He makes it hearts. The player to the left of the dealer leads. In this case, it's my partner. He leads his strongest non-heart, in this case the ace of clubs. That's the traditional play. Opponent 2 has the king and has to play it. I have to play the 9 or the queen, and I keep the queen. Opponent 1 has to follow suit with the 10 of clubs. It's 1-0, and my partner leads again. This time he tries the queen of diamonds. Opponent 2 trumps with the queen of hearts. I have to play the 10 of diamonds, and opponent 1 throws off the king. It is 1-1. Opponent 2 leads the right bower, again the traditional play. I don't have hearts, so I throw the 9 of spades. Opponent 1 also has no trump cards and plays the 10 of spades. My partner plays his weakest suited card, the 10 of hearts. The score is 1-2. Opponent 2 no longer has the strongest trump and opts to save his trump for the last trick. He plays the queen of spades. I have the ace, so now I'm winning. Opponent 1 has no trump cards and plays the king. My partner has to follow suit, but even if he didn't, he would save his heart because I have won this trick. It's 2-2. I lead the queen of clubs, but the lead here is irrelevant. 2 players have trump, and my partner's left bower beats opponent 2's king. We win the trick and the hand, 3-2. We have euchred our opponents and get 2 points. You'll notice that the technically stronger hand just got euchred and the prior weaker hand did not. This illustrates the point that the way the cards and suits fit together determines the outcome. It's beyond the intellect of anyone to reason their way through the expected points of a given hand, and simulation is the natural solution. My approach works like this. 1. Establish a base rule set. This will mirror my own style of play, and as such may not be machine perfect. But this base system will generate thousands of games, and the comparison across games will be valuable. Incidentally, I've used this technique in my profession for years. With a reasonable and consistent approach, comparisons are possible even if the approach itself is imperfect. 2. I'll look at calling trump in the second round as the base set, but also the concept I mentioned before, namely how much of an impact is there from ordering up a card. Giving it to your partner should help, whereas giving it to your opponent should hurt. I'll try to figure out how much. And 3, once the base framework is built, I will look for specific opportunities to improve on gameplay. For example, say the expected points of a given hand is 1.20. I will replace just one decision, replay all the games, and determine the new expected points. If the change results in an expected points of 1.25, I'll know that it's viable, and I'll begin to play that way. There is an alternative to this, as demonstrated recently by the chess world. Traditional chess engines are beyond the ability of human players and have been for about 20 years now. A company called DeepMind created a new type of chess-playing computer. Instead of searching for the best move by brute force, i.e. analyzing millions of move chains, it was simply taught the rules of the game and instructed to play itself to learn chess. It then destroyed the strongest traditional chess engines. Euchre is so much simpler than chess that I might be able to do something like this, i.e. providing only the rules without gameplay instructions. I briefly considered this, i.e. a recursive approach working backwards from trick 4 to 3 to 2 to 1, but I didn't do this because A, it's hard, and B, there are risks involved with deploying any form of artificial intelligence. With the chosen approach determined, there are drawbacks to consider. This isn't an exhaustive list, but here are a few that come to mind immediately. 1. Styles vary. In the simulator, all players play the same way. In a real game with known human opponents, you might play differently, to counter your opponents or accommodate your partner. 2. Memories vary. The simulator will count cards perfectly. I can typically do this, but
that what gets it done.
Yep.
Going tennis clubs and the 9 of spades clubs.
Lady man.
Base. I understood every word of that.
sometimes I can't. The first two are beyond my desire to fix, but this third one, though, I made the gameplay trick agnostic. In other words, the algorithm for playing the first trick is the same as the algorithm for playing the fourth trick. There are components present that consider the gameplay thus far, cards played, boss trump, etc., but considerations like, I'm guaranteed 1 point and this is the best approach to try to get to 2 points are not present. So I'm stretching the reasonable and consistent approach maxim I mentioned previously. Incidentally, as of this recording, I'm still writing the code for going alone. I haven't talked about going alone much, but the playing style changes when you opt to play alone, as do the decisions of your opponents. I'm going to try to be smarter about that and code it more precisely than I did the base game. So that's the plan. I hope you enjoy the Euchre simulator and stay tuned for part 2.